The court said he was guilty, but a hidden truth could change everything. With a sense of finality that reverberated throughout the courtroom like a death knell, the gavel was brought down onto the table. Guilty, the judge pronounced, his tone icy and inflexible throughout the court proceeding. There were gasps, whispers, and the muffled cries of the defendant's family as the judgment was announced. The verdict sent a wave through the room. A software programmer named Ethan Cole, who was 32 years old, was standing still in the dock with his hands shaking and his face looking pale. He had recently been given a sentence of 25 years in jail for a crime that he had sworn he had not committed, the murder of Daniel Graves, who was another business partner of his. A devastating body of evidence was presented against Ethan. The knife that was recovered in his vehicle was smeared in blood, and his fingerprints were located on the weapon that was used in the murder. On the night of the murder, he was seen on surveillance film in close proximity to Daniel's apartment. A series of angry text conversations sent between the two men provided evidence of a furious disagreement over the failure of their technology firm. This is possibly the most incriminating evidence of all. The jury was presented with a case that was clear and unambiguous, a relationship that had gone bad, a guy who had been driven to the limit, and a horrific act of retribution. However, Ethan's thoughts were racing as he was being brought away in handcuffs. But he was aware of the reality. He had not murdered Daniel. He was innocent, but he did not have a plausible explanation for the night of the murder. He was a victim of the system's failure, nevertheless. To put it another way, every day Ethan felt the walls of the jail closing in on him, making the prison a dreary and dismal fortress. The majority of his time was spent reading legal papers, sending letters to anybody who may be interested in hearing them, and clinging to the sliver of hope that someone, somewhere, might consider him credible. Despite the fact that her eyes were sunken with tiredness, Claire, his wife, paid him a visit every week. Her determination remained unshaken. "We'll find the truth," she murmured to him during one of their visits, as she was holding his hand through the windshield. "I promise." After then, everything shifted in a single day. Ethan was the recipient of a letter that was dropped off in the mail. I was not acquainted with the return address, and the handwriting was nice, but seemed to have been done. There was a single piece of paper inside, and it contained a message that caused Ethan's heart to cease beating. "I am aware that you did not harm Daniel. I will be waiting for you in the visiting room on October 23rd. Come by yourself." There was no signature on the message. The leg of Ethan, who was sitting in the visiting room, was bouncing uncomfortably beneath the table. There was a palpable sense of tension in the air, and the faint buzz of fluorescent lights above him was irritating to his senses. When the door was eventually opened, a lady who hadn't been there before came in. She was in her late 40s and had angular features and eyes that were a brilliant green color. Dr. Evelyn Hart, a forensic psychologist who had been monitoring Ethan's case, was the one who introduced herself to this individual. The tone of her voice was low and urgent as she said, "I've been searching through the evidence. There's something the court missed, something big." There was a pause in his breathing as Ethan leaned forward. "What is it?" Dr. Hart paused for a moment, casting a questioning glance around the room as if someone were paying attention. "The murder weapon would be the knife that they discovered in your vehicle. The blood that was found on it was not just Daniel's. In addition, there was a second DNA profile, which did not correspond to either you or Daniel. Because the authorities were so certain that you were responsible for the crime, they never pursued it." Ethan's mind was racing. Is there a second DNA profile? It's possible that this indicates that there was another person involved, someone who the police had missed. However, who is it? With a voice that was hardly audible above a whisper, Dr. Hart continued, "There is more to it. It was discovered that the timestamp on the surveillance tape from Daniel's apartment building had been changed. To make it seem as if you were present on that particular evening, it was altered by someone. As a result of my analysis of the information, it is unambiguous. The footage was altered in some way. When Ethan first experienced a wave of optimism, it was swiftly replaced by a sense of perplexity. Why would someone act in such a manner? With whom would I be framed? There was a change in Dr. Hart's face. That is the question that has to be answered. But I believe that it is connected to the startup that you are working on. One of the things that Daniel was working on before he passed away was a significant project that he did not want anybody to know about. And someone was trying to keep him from speaking. An intricate network of lies, treachery, and corporate espionage was revealed to Ethan and Dr. Hart as they proceeded with their investigation. Daniel was working on a groundbreaking artificial intelligence system, one that had the potential to completely transform the technology sector. However, he had also been in discussions with a competing business, who was prepared to do whatever in order to ensure that they got access to his work. They came to the conclusion that the arrest of Ethan had been a ruse. All of this had been planned by the competing corporation, which had planted evidence and manipulated the investigation in order to make sure that Ethan was the one who got the blame. The algorithm, along with the money that it had promised, was up for grabs now that Daniel had been killed and Ethan had been arrested. On the other hand, the most surprising discovery was made by Dr. Hart when he found a secret file on Daniel's laptop. The file had been encrypted and was buried deep inside the system. A video message from Daniel, which was shot only a few hours before he passed away, was included in it. During the video, Daniel seemed to be in a state of dread, with his eyes wide open. "If you're watching this, it means something's happened to me," he said to reporters. "I am really sorry, Ethan. It would have been better if I had told you the truth. They are pursuing me, as well as us. It turns out that the algorithm is more powerful than we had anticipated, and they will do everything to get it." Ethan and Dr. Hart were left looking at the TV in startled silence as the film suddenly came to an end. As a result of the assistance provided by Dr. Hart, Ethan filed an appeal and presented the new evidence to the court. The second DNA profile, the videotape that had been altered, and Daniel's video message were all sufficient evidence to throw doubt on the results of the first investigation. The case garnered widespread media attention, which resulted in a public uproar and increased the amount of pressure placed on the authorities to restart the inquiry. As soon as the truth was revealed, the CEO of the competing firm was taken into custody, along with numerous other individuals who had been involved in the plot to frame Ethan. As a result of the algorithm being found, Ethan was brought to justice, and his name was finally cleansed. However, the win has a bittersweet taste. Ethan would never be able to forget the hardship that he had been through since Daniel had passed away. He pledged to respect Daniel's legacy by ensuring that the algorithm was utilized for good rather than greed, as he walked out of the prison gates as a free man. Several years later, Ethan and Claire were receiving an award for their efforts in the creation of ethical artificial intelligence while standing on the podium of a full audience. The algorithm that Daniel had sacrificed his life for was now being used to find solutions to some of the most critical issues facing the globe today, ranging from climate change to healthcare. As Ethan took in the sights of the throng, he had a feeling of calm that he hadn't experienced in many years. The truth had liberated him, not only from the confines of jail, but also from the gloom of uncertainty and hopelessness. And despite the fact that the journey had been lengthy and excruciating, he was convinced of one thing: there are times when the deepest, most ominous secrets conceal the most illuminating facts. As Ethan and Claire entered the auditorium to receive the prize, the audience erupted in excitement. But Ethan's thoughts were elsewhere. It was impossible for him to avoid thinking about Daniel, his buddy, his partner, and the one who had made the ultimate sacrifice for the ideal that they both cherished. Ethan came up to the microphone as the ovation began to wind down. His voice was calm but filled with passion as he said these words. In the beginning, he started by looking around the room and said, "This award isn't just for us. This is in honor of Daniel Graves, a pioneer who had faith in the ability of technology to bring about positive change in the world. Too soon, he was stolen from us, but his legacy will continue to live on in the work that we do each and every day." The weight of his remarks, which had settled over the audience, caused the room to fall into silence. While he persisted, Ethan's voice became more louder. Daniel's algorithm was never just concerned with gains in power or profits. There was a focus on the potential. Utilizing technology to make the world a better place was the topic of discussion. And that is the reason we have devoted our whole lives to respecting his ideals and making sure that his sacrifice was not in vain. As soon as Ethan took a step back, the audience started getting up and giving him a standing ovation. Claire gently gripped his hand, tears gleaming in her eyes as she does so. Ethan had a feeling of completion for the first time in a number of years. But he was also aware that their adventure was not even close to being done. Ethan and Claire put in a lot of effort in the months that followed to grow their ethical artificial intelligence efforts by forming partnerships with governments, non-governmental organizations, NGOs, and technology businesses all around the globe. A number of applications of the algorithm included the forecasting of natural catastrophes, the enhancement of renewable energy systems, and even the development of individualized medicinal treatments. It was just what Daniel had envisioned, and much more than that. On the other hand, immense power comes with considerable danger. On a certain evening, when Ethan was going over a report on the most recent implementations of the algorithm, he discovered that his laptop had a message that was encrypted. Despite the fact that the sender remained unknown, the message was chilling. Even if you believe you have won, the game is not yet finished. The algorithm poses a greater threat than you are currently aware of. Put a stop to it right now, or you'll come to regret it. Blood began to run cold in Ethan. Claire was the one who was shown the message, and she instantly urged that they get in touch with the authorities. However, Ethan was hesitant. The fact that he had gone down this path previously made him aware of the fact that there were occasions when the system could not be trusted. Instead, he made the decision to conduct his own investigation. The inquiry that Ethan was doing led him down a rabbit hole that consisted of forums on the dark web, encrypted conversations, and mysterious individuals that functioned on the periphery of the technology world. From the very beginning, he found out that a secret organization that was only known as the Syndicate had been keeping an eye on the algorithm's growth. As a result of their conviction that the technology was too strong to be governed by a single body, they were resolute in their intention to either take it or destroy it. During the course of his investigation, Ethan came upon a stunning discovery. The Syndicate had penetrated a number of prominent organizations, including some of Ethan's own business partners. Through the use of their power, they were attempting to destroy the growth of the algorithm by disseminating false information and planting seeds of skepticism among its users. However, the most concerning finding was when Ethan discovered proof that the Syndicate had built a counter-algorithm. This counter-algorithm was a weaponized version of Daniel's innovation that was meant to disrupt global systems. In the event that it were to be released, it has the potential to bring about economic collapse, political upheaval, and complete anarchy over the globe. Ethan was aware that he needed to take action quickly. It was with Claire's assistance that he was able to put together a group of reliable supporters, which included hackers, activists, and former law enforcement agents who shared his dedication to safeguarding the algorithm. Through collaborative effort, they came up with a strategy to bring the Syndicate to light and eliminate their counter-algorithm. A series of synchronized hacks, covert operations, and high-stakes talks were all that were involved in the operation, which was a perilous endeavor. During a certain moment in time, Ethan found himself in direct contact with the head of the syndicate, a mystery individual who was only referred to as the architect. The argument between them was heated, with the architect making fun of Ethan by making fun of the fact that his attempts were unsuccessful. It was the architect who scoffed at Ethan, saying, "You can't stop progress. The world is changing, and you're standing in the way." Despite this, Ethan did not back down. The absence of ethics in development is not progress. Rather, it is annihilation. And I will not let you to demolish what Daniel has built. In the end, Ethan's squad walked away victorious. Through their efforts, they were able to break the network of the syndicate, eliminate the counter-algorithm, and put the organization's leaders to court. However, the win did not come without a price. Over the course of the final conflict, many members of Ethan's team sustained injuries, and one of them, a young hacker by the name of Mia, tragically lost her life. Immediately after the event, Ethan and Claire took a break from their job in order to mourn and reorganize themselves. As a way of paying tribute to Mia, they founded a foundation that is committed to fostering ethical technology and providing assistance to the succeeding generation of inventors. As time went on, the algorithm continued to flourish, and the applications it brought about became more significant. On the other hand, Ethan was aware that the battle was not yet done. At a rate that was unprecedented, the globe was undergoing rapid transformation, and the distinction between development and danger was becoming more hazy. Claire joined him on the balcony of their house one evening. As he was standing there watching the sunset, she wrapped her arms around his waist and embraced him enthusiastically. In a low voice, she said, "We've come so far, but there's still so much to do." With his eyes locked on the horizon, Ethan gave a little nod. The response he gave was, "We'll keep fighting. To Daniel, I say. Do to Mia. For all those individuals who have faith in a brighter future." And as the sun descended below the horizon, illuminating the sky with hues of orange and pink, Ethan had a revitalized feeling of purpose. He was prepared for the long and unpredictable journey that lay ahead of him, mostly due to the fact that he was aware of the fact that the light will always find a way to shine through the darkness, so long as there were individuals who were prepared to assert themselves for what was right. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments and subscribe for more inspiring content.